What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another Netflix recommendation video for February 2017. I know that I did not do a video for January, and that's because I want to make this series a bi-monthly series, because I feel if I do it every single month, I'll be pulling more at scraps of films, where if I wait 2 months, it gives me a better pot to pick from to really give you guys truly good movies to watch. As always, this list is a fun combination of action and comedy and drama and family-friendly and old school, and all kinds of stuff thrown together to make a whole list that has at least one movie for anybody. Before the list, I did also want to just say thank you to all the new subscribers, all of the new viewers. I'm really glad you guys are enjoying the videos. If you are a new viewer watching this, please hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video, but without further ado, let's get into the list. Now, my first choice is kind of a cheating choice because it's two movies, sort of. So the one movie is Martin Scorsese's awards season surprise, Hugo. This is a family-friendly movie about a kid who lives in a train station in the 1930s in Paris, and he sort of has this weird mystery that he's trying to solve. And through this, he runs into acclaimed, famous, historical director Georges Méliès. And this film basically tells the story of this kid trying to solve this mystery and also sort of encountering the past of Georges Méliès and all of this great film history. If you're a movie buff, this movie is a true story about movies, and that's part of the love for it. But the other thing that I wanted to tie in with this is A Trip to the Moon, which is Georges Méliès's by far most well-known film that he made. It's only about a half-hour long, and it's also available on Netflix. The movie does play an okay-sized role in Hugo, and it's just an interesting piece of film history. This is definitely a recommendation for film buffs, people that want to get sort of in tune with old school film, and also watch a very old school film before color, before sound, before any of that. Georges Méliès was a true magician with the camera in his time. Now, the next movie stays in that same realm of the old school film buff or someone that wants to see an old true classic from like the 1920s. And the next movie is Metropolis. Fitz Lang directed this film, and it tells the story of a futuristic city and how it's sort of in this dystopian, terrible time, and there's all this split between wealth and poverty and all of this stuff. It talks about a lot of different social issues in the film. It's very well made, it's well directed, and it's an extremely interesting piece of film history to go along with that. It is silent, it's originally a German film, but everything obviously has English subtitles. And I wanted to recommend this because Netflix has a lot of these old school movies that people don't watch because it's necessarily like a silent film or they think it'll be boring. And I'm not gonna lie and say that it's as engaging as a modern action film or something, but it teaches you about where film came from and how we got where we are today. And along with that, Metropolis is a bit of an enigma in film history because it's part of a movement called German Expressionism, but rather than taking place in the past, it takes place in a dystopian future, so it adds that in. It's a very interesting film, and I recommend it to anyone that wants to see an old school film or try to immerse themselves in film history. But back to the modern day with my next pick. This was a movie that there's a review up for on my channel. It is for The Jungle Book, Jon Favreau's 2016 version of this film. I really enjoyed this movie. It has absolutely amazing special effects. I really think it could take home the Oscar for Best Special Effects this year. The whole movie is really solid. The lead actor who plays Mowgli does a pretty good job. There's a few sequences where he's weaker, but all of the voice acting from everyone, and Bill Murray as Baloo is just so good. This movie really ties it all together. It's a great family-friendly movie, and also as someone like me who grew up watching the OG Jungle Book on VHS in my house, this was a great comeback to that. It really fulfills what you wanted it to be. It's not overly dark, but it's also not overly cheery because films have become a little more dark recently, and I think it really ties that in well. And overall, it's funny, it's happy, and it's just a good time to watch. Sticking with that family-friendly theme, I want to recommend Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. The sequel to this used to be on Netflix, but I was waiting for this one because this is the first, and it's also the best one. Rick Moranis plays a weird scientist dad who is basically trying to come up with all these inventions, and he creates a shrink ray, and his kids accidentally all get shrunk by it, and they are forced to sort of live out through their backyard and their house to try and contact their parents in some way so they can make them back to normal size before they die in some horrific accident with an ant or a piece of wood or something, and it's a fun movie. It's also a great adventure movie for kids because unlike a lot of adventure films that take place over a wide scope, since they're shrunken down, this whole movie really takes place on their family's like house grounds. It takes place either inside the house or in the backyard. It doesn't really go much farther than that, and it's a really interesting concept to tie in with all that. It's funny, obviously it's Rick Moranis, so it's old school, fun, and it also is like really, really heartwarming. There's some like actually sad scenes in this movie, and there's some parts that really make you feel stuff. As a kid, I remember being really sad at one part in this movie. It's a fun movie, it's great for any age group, and it's something that really helps us remember the memory of Rick Moranis. He retired, and he doesn't really make movies anymore, but he was a great in the time that he was. His comedic timing and skill was so phenomenal, and I think that this movie is a great showing of that in a family-friendly environment. Leaving family films in the distance, I want to recommend The Last 5 Years, starring Anna Kendrick and Jeremy Jordan. This is a musical that is based on a stage play about a couple that we basically start the film seeing the end. We see the finality of the film. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but then we get to see their 5-year-long relationship sort of told throughout flashbacks. And there's beautiful, beautiful music throughout this movie. The performances are really good from Kendrick and Jordan, and it's a really human story. It's odd because it's a musical, so I feel like in that you would think it would lose some of that, but it really, really hits you with that relationship and emotional punch because these two characters, although one is like a struggling actress and the other is a novelist, they don't necessarily have relatable jobs, but the problems they face together are still relatable, and they build an extremely real feeling relationship throughout the film. I would recommend this movie if you enjoyed a film like La La Land from this year, because they're similar in the story they're telling, although I think La La Land is a far superior film. The Last 5 Years feels more human. It's less of an extravagant show, and it's more about the people and the humanity of it, where La La Land does have that, but it also has that fun excitement throughout the film. Beasts of No Nation is the next film on this list, Idris Elba's Netflix original. It is the story of a young boy who is pulled into being a child soldier in a random place in Africa. They do not geographically specify where they are, and I think they do that for the reason to sort of say that maybe it's something that could happen anywhere, to show the horrors of it and the real fact that it's a serious problem. It is a interesting movie that has a lot of really, really well acted characters through it, really good child performances in this film. Idris Elba is really, really good, and the action is good, but it's very reminiscent of Blood Diamond to me in the story that it's telling, but also in the way it's filmed. It's not filmed like an action movie. This is a drama that happens to take place in a action-filled environment, and I really enjoyed that about this film. If you enjoy films like Blood Diamond specifically, that's by far the #1 movie I can relate this to, I would say check it out. It's definitely a little bit of a rough watch at times because it doesn't hold back from showing some of the more horrific things that happen, but it also is a telling story, and I think it's one that was worth telling a couple years ago, and Idris Elba's performance is really enough to watch this film. Staying with that same theme of Beasts of No Nation, the next film is Tears of the Sun. This is a pretty lesser known Bruce Willis film that he made back in the 2000s, and it is the story of a Special Ops Navy SEALs group who is sent into Nigeria to recover a doctor because a warlord has basically just taken over and is coming to kill her or kidnap her for hostage, but she refuses to leave without all of her patients that she's taking care of, so they agree to move all of them out with them. It is a rough film. This movie, if like I said, Beasts of No Nation doesn't hold back, but this movie really doesn't hold back in the violence. It is a tough watch at times. Bruce Willis is really solid in this film. Anton Fuqua directed it. He did Training Day and The Equalizer, films like that. He is really good at handling the action throughout the film, and that's why this movie has some of my personal favorite action sequences of a war film. This isn't technically a war film, it's more of an action film, but the ending sequence is really, really beautifully done. done in this movie, and I think that if you're a fan of Bruce Willis and if you're a fan of war movies that have a more serious tone than some action films, definitely watch this because it's one that gets very forgotten about and left in the dark, even though it's well made and maybe it doesn't stand up to something like Saving Private Ryan, but it is a really solid film that gives extremely well choreographed, well made action sequences with a sort of like sad and heartbreaking story to go along with it. This next movie is only the second documentary that I have ever put on one of these lists. I watched this film on a whim with some friends. It is Ratt, Morgan Spurlock's film. He did Super Size Me, where he ate all the McDonald's. That was years ago now. I watched that back in school. And this is a movie literally about rats and how terrifying they are. It's not the most perfectly made documentary, but he basically traveled the globe to find out about this like crazy rat epidemic that nobody knows about. He goes to like New York and England and India and like all these other places and finds out how people are trying to counteract this issue. Like, he goes to New York, there's so many rats in New York, like, I was flabbergasted. I was disgusted at the amount of gross-ass rats that there were in this city. And he basically shows the diseases they carry, how fast they evolve, how, like, dangerous they really are to humans. And it's really, really interesting because you learn a ton of stuff that you never knew about rats before. But also, it's such a freaking weird idea for a documentary. The premise is basically that rats are like a supervillain, but it's put together in this like scary horror movie way, and it's just like so creepy and weird, but it's also really eye-opening about, I think, a topic that no one really knows about or even really cares to think about. But I watched it with some friends, and holy God, I recommend this to anyone. If you want to see something that truly makes you just go like, what the hell is happening in this world? Because it's an issue that you knew nothing about before. Now I'm like terrified of rats after seeing this. I think that rats are gonna kill us all, but it's really cool, and the way it's put together as like a horror film doesn't necessarily work with the fact that it's a documentary, but it's also a really interesting way to put a documentary together. If you like films, specifically documentaries that are sort of put together in sort of a revolutionary or different manner, I would say check this out. But also, if you just want to watch a really weird movie that teaches you a bunch of crazy stuff, this is it. Watch this with some friends. Me and my friends had a great time watching this film because it is just insane. The next film is a movie from my childhood. That is Small Soldiers. Small Soldiers tells the story of a bunch of action figures that accidentally get military-grade microchips put in them, and then they come to life and they sort of have the same instincts that their characters are supposed to have, so they want to like hunt each other down. I know, it's like a real 90s movie premise that sounds ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun. It basically is a child's action movie is the way I would describe it, because I don't think kids get a lot of movies that you could call an action movie, but this one is because they're toys, so they can get away with like destroying them and like having them want to destroy each other because they're just pieces of plastic in the film. It's a fun movie. All of the little action figures and characters have their own different personalities that are based on what their action figures character is supposed to be. Tommy Lee Jones voices one of the like G.I. Joe type characters in the film. He does a great job. They make all these weird inventions to fight each other. It's a real 90s film, but it's a ton of fun, and I remember watching this movie so many times when I was a kid. It's funny. It's got such a strange premise that it's endearing, and the fact that this movie was made by like a major company is just crazy to me. It's insane, but it's a really funny. Like I said, the story is so original and odd that it's worth checking out. And also, as a kid, I loved it. My sister loved it. It's definitely a movie that works for both age groups. As adults, you can watch it and just be enamored by how odd this film is and how funny it is. But as a kid, it's really cool. I had a ton of the action figures from this movie when I was a kid, and I'd recommend it in that type of audience, kids and adults. I mean, I haven't watched this movie on my own in a while, but I did see it a couple years ago, and it still holds up. It's a fun film. Some of the effects are maybe a little cheesier now, but I recommend it to anyone that wants to watch something with their kids, or if you just want to watch an odd 90s movie that a lot of people forget about. And the final movie on this list is Beverly Hills Cop. Eddie Murphy's best movie, hands down. So good. It's about a cop from Detroit who has to go to LA to sort of help his friend, and it's just a ton of weird, fun Eddie Murphy comedy, super good physical comedy, also a solid police detective story that goes on with a mystery, and it's Eddie Murphy in his prime. This is peak Eddie Murphy. I couldn't recommend any other film by him that could beat this one. Everything about it is either funny or it's just all really well done. There's nothing about this film that's poorly done. I recommend it for sure if you've enjoyed Eddie Murphy's work before. Obviously his newer stuff's a little iffy, but if you enjoyed past Eddie Murphy, check this out if you haven't seen it. And if you just like good 80s comedies, especially like buddy cop type comedies, this is for you because it's one of the best ones ever. I do want to throw out a couple bonus things. They're both stand-up comedian performances by Tom Segura. One is called Completely Normal and the other one is called Mostly Stories. I think they're absolutely hilarious, and if you love stand-up comedy, definitely check them out. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of the list, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and I hope to see you guys later.